Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me at the table. I apologize for not being live tonight. I started out on a live stream about 3 minutes in. I noticed that everything disconnected. I don't know what happened. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to record this and we'll post it on Facebook later. So this will be coming to you a little bit late on Wednesday, April 15th. This is Season 2, Episode 14 of At the Table. Took a week off last week. Sometimes you just need a break. There just was a lot going on. Nothing bad. Just a lot of stuff going on with work, a lot of stuff going on at home. Just needed a little bit of time to recuperate a little bit, spend some time with the family. So here we are tonight. Last night at Bel Air First United Methodist Church, Pastor Ian Thornton and I did a Bible study on the book of John, and we got into a lot of knowing and understanding. And I told Ian afterwards, I said, I'm not really sure where that came from. I mean, I know it came from God, but it wasn't what I had anticipated would come out in the Bible study, but it was just what God was feeding to me in that moment. I was hearing in my head the Lord speak and talking about knowing and understanding. And I said, I'm going to continue this tonight at the table because there's a different audience for at the table than there is for the Bible study. And I want to really get this message out there. So for some of you, it might be a little bit repetitive, but hopefully you'll learn something new. But when we talk about knowing and understanding, there's a couple of different things that we can talk about here. Like, for example, you might know me. You might know my name. You might see my face. And you might say, hey, that's Phil. But do you understand me? Oh, I'm telling you right now, Tanya's probably saying no one understands you. No, I mean, there's a difference between intimate understanding of someone and just having a knowledge of someone. There's a difference between knowing about something and understanding something. For example, I started working at a bank almost 2 years ago. I knew about banks. Boy, I did not understand banks, but I understand a lot more now, and I'm understanding more and more every day. So there's a big difference. So when we talk about God, yeah, we know God. We know that Jesus died on the cross. We know that all these things. But do we understand? Do we understand why? Do we understand what his purpose was? I'm telling you, when we understand God more, we're going to be able to understand and know why we're here, what our purpose is, what our goals are. We're going to have a better relationship with God. Okay? Couple weeks ago, oh boy, you know what? It's been, a month since this whole coronavirus thing sent everybody to their homes and their businesses started shutting down. Maybe not quite a month yet, but I don't remember how long ago it was. I said something about doing a Bible study on knowing God and understanding God better. I want to kind of pick up with that tonight, okay? And at first I said that we would go to Genesis chapter 3. So I'm just going to read a little bit out of Genesis chapter 3 for you. Now the serpent was more crafty than any of the wild animals the Lord God had made. So right there we know that God made the serpent. He said to the woman, did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden? The woman said to the serpent, we may eat from the trees in the garden, but God did say, you must not eat from the fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden, and you must not touch it, or you will die. You will not surely die, the serpent said to the woman, for God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. Knowing good and evil. Do you know the difference between good and evil? Before you start to turn this into something political, no, we're not going there. But sure, we know the difference between good and evil. But what we know is what society teaches us. For example, if you ask someone in the 1950s, is it evil to say certain words on television? Well, yeah. You ask somebody 70 years later in 2020, is it evil to say certain words on television? You're like, no. Every show does it now. Even broadcast television has certain words that are acceptable. So has our definition of evil changed over time? Or do we really not know the difference between good and evil? Well, you see, I think we do. Because that's what the tree of knowledge was for. To know the difference between good and evil. I really want to put this into proper terms and simplify it for you if I can. It's not just an angel on this shoulder and a devil on this shoulder. That's Hollywood's good and evil. But it's that concept. Good and evil is the battle that rages in our minds, in our hearts, all around us. It's a spiritual battle that is going on. And we may know about it, but a lot of us don't understand it. And that lack of understanding of it is what causes us to get into a lot of trouble. That's what causes television stations to start allowing words that weren't appropriate in 1950. I mean, we're not going to get into the argument of if it's acceptable or not. Again, that's a societal standard. But what I'm getting at is, do we know good and evil? Yeah. Because you see, when Adam and Eve ate from that tree, they obtained the knowledge of good and evil. When they procreated and had children, that knowledge went with them. Okay? We often say that's the original sin. And it was a sin. Anything that goes against what God says is a sin. And they did sin. But their knowledge is what causes us to sin. We know what's right and what's wrong. And we still choose to sin. But something that we really need to understand is there's really two things here. The devil doesn't always make you do it. And not even his demons always make you do it. There's the flesh. Okay? This flesh that we live in, it's broken by this original sin. We make choices on our own, in our minds, to do things. Sure, we have outside influence quite a bit from demons. Okay? There's a spiritual battle going on. But it's not always them. They have influence. Sometimes they get us in the right place at the right time because they know we're going to choose. They know what we're going to choose. Okay? But we can't blame everything on them. But a lot of it we can. Because there is a lot of evil in this world. A lot of evil influence in this world. And we do know the difference between good and evil. But we don't always know what to do with it. And that's where understanding comes in. Let me tell you a quick story. I use this one quite a bit. Knowledge is like water. We all know what water is, right? I mean, our bodies are made up of, I don't know, what is it, 75% water or something like that? So we know what water is. So imagine water. Now, if you have a bucket and you put water in it, that's understanding. That's doing something with the water. You're putting it in a bucket and you're holding on to it. Wisdom is knowing what to do with that water. Oh, there's a fire. Pour the water on. That's wisdom, okay? But understanding is like carrying the water. So we have this knowledge. We have all kinds of knowledge of good and evil. Understanding is how we carry it, what we do with it. Wisdom comes into, but for right now, tonight, we're just talking about knowing and understanding. So understanding comes into play in, I know that God said, don't tell a lie. I know that. I know it's wrong to tell a lie. I know that he has said that liars will not get into heaven. Hold that thought. Don't worry, I'm not sending everybody to hell tonight. But understanding is knowing what happens when you tell a lie. We can go into the aspects of your blood pressure changes. We know polygraphs work. We could get into that understanding of this knowledge of telling a lie. We can get into the understanding of what it does to other people. We can lose trust. We can lose integrity. We can get into all that. But when we talk about the sinfulness of lying, it's deceitful. It's misleading. It's everything that goes against who God is. And in that, it's sinful. But, save the fact that God said in the 9th commandment, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. It's lying. Okay? So when we have that understanding of what lying does, it might keep us from lying. Or it might propel us into lying even more. Do you see where I'm going with this? We could take every sin. Murder. It's a sin. We understand what happens if we murder someone. Prison for the rest of your life, possibly death. You take the life of another person. Jesus took it further and said, when you call your brother a fool, it's murder. It's murder of character. So we have that understanding. Okay? So where I'm going with all this is we have a knowledge of who God is. Right? We know that God is the creator. We know that God sent his son Jesus. We know that we should pray, we should praise him, we should call out to him, we should worship him. We know all this. But do we have understanding that goes with it? See, this is what we touched on last night. I don't want to cover in a little more detail tonight. And that is, God is not a vending machine. Okay? You don't go to God and say, God, I'm praying. I'm worshiping. I'm tithing. I'm going to church every Sunday. God, why do I still feel like I'm not being used? God, why do I still feel like I'm not getting anywhere in life? God, why do I still feel like I'm in a dead end? Have you ever wondered that? It gets to the point where if that's your whole knowledge and understanding, you're going to get to the point where you're going to say, I give up. I give up. I've tried. But see, the problem is we don't have a good understanding of who God is. This all started in me with the whole coronavirus. And now that it's April 15th, I can say this. There was a prophet, a well-known prophet in this world. I'm not going to throw out his name, who said that by Passover, April 8th, that the coronavirus would be gone, that God was going to supernaturally destroy it. If you turn on Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, any of your favorite political circuses that they call news programs, you'll see that the coronavirus hasn't been destroyed. In fact, in Ohio, from yesterday to today, from April 14th to April 15th, was the greatest number of daily cases, confirmed cases. Went up over 500 cases from yesterday to today. It's not gone. I don't even think we've hit the peak yet. We don't know what's going to happen. So there were other people jumping on this and even making prophetic words that it's going to be gone by April 8th. You don't understand God. I mean, we're not going to get into the whole prophetic aspect of that tonight, but if you fell for that trap, then ask yourself, how do you understand God? Because when I look in Exodus 13, the story of the Passover, the first Passover, when I look at that and I read the book of Exodus, I see God with the people, carrying them through, with them the entire time. God's not way off afar, looking down saying, time for this to end. God is in the minds of people saying, see how this coronavirus works? Let's develop a vaccine. God's in the mind of doctors saying, this patient needs to be on a ventilator. God's in the minds of his people saying, I can't go to church. I really miss it. Let's see what Psalms says. Do you rulers indeed speak justly? Do you judge uprightly among men? Know in your heart you devise injustice, and your hands mete out violence on earth. And you say, I don't know what that means, but I just read the Bible. And then you come over and you say, let's read Isaiah. And you see that By his stripes we are healed. I'm like, ooh, I think I kind of know what that one means. And then maybe you jump ahead and you go into the Gospel of John and you turn and you say, then Pilate took Jesus and had him flogged. Wait a minute. I just went from Isaiah 53 to John 19. By his stripes we are healed. Jesus is flogged. Maybe those are stripes that God was talking about. Hey, God's speaking to me. Yes. That's how it works. That's the understanding I'm talking about. Knowledge, this is a Bible. Understanding, reading, and letting God lead you. That's what God does with his people. He leads us. He guides us. He helps us discover things. He builds our faith. He helps us to see that, when I pray and prayers get answered, I trust him more. Okay? It doesn't say proper understanding is not saying, well, God's going to take care of this for me because he's my God. I love the Lord just as much as anybody else. I love him with all my heart, all my soul, all my strength. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He maketh me lie down in green pastures. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me beside still waters. Just like anybody else. Okay? But something that I've realized that God has worked inside of me to help me understand, and I want to help you understand now, is that it's more than just a knowledge of God. Knowledge of God says, Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for this food. Thank you for my job. That's knowledge. Understanding is, God, you woke me up for another day. I'm very blessed that I have a job when many people don't. That's understanding. This relationship is like a friendship. It's not a push buttons and God does. And if you get all the buttons right, God does more. Man, that's not how it works. And let me tell you this also, it's not about doing. I mean, you want me to, I wish we had time. I'd go through the book of Galatians and I'd teach you from the book of Galatians. It's not about what you do. The book of James, it's faith without deeds is dead. George, about what you do. No. Faith. And then the deeds come. Deeds don't lead to faith. You don't do so that you can have faith. You have faith, and then you do. God is always doing, always working, always talking, always speaking, always moving in our lives. Many times we don't even realize it. I guarantee you, beyond the shadow of a doubt, that, I don't know, I'm just going to say 500 of us, okay? Just picking a random number. That 500 people in this area where I live, or within the world, have been next to someone. Could have been me. Could have been any of you. It's been next to someone who's had the coronavirus. We didn't get it. Because God made sure it didn't happen. God does do that. But the person next to us got it. And you know what God did? He got that person through. Or perhaps, maybe that person died. And God took their soul to heaven. There's not a prescription for this. It's not figure out the puzzle and put it all together and then you know God. I think a lot of times in our world, that's our problem, is that we look for things to be easy. There's a mouse. We know what to do with it. If I gave it to even a 3-year-old, they would know what to do with it. My daughter's 25 years old today. Happy birthday, Caitlin. I remember when she was 2 years old. She knew if she moved this mouse and took that little bone on the screen and put it by the dog's mouth, the dog would go woof and eat the bone. And she'd smile. Okay? She knew how to do the puzzle at 2 years old on the computer. We, as a society, want things quick. We want things simple. We want things easy. So we make it and we sell it and we make money by making things simple. My job is to make people's lives easier to work at the bank. I get the numbers for them so they understand their reports. I write the programs for them so that they can get the reports, so they can get the data in the right place. I do all these things and I put it all together to make people's lives easier. So then we go to God and say, God, make my life easier. No. God's saying, I want to go through this life with you. I never said it was going to be easy, but I'm going to be there with you. I'm going to be there with you. And yeah, me being with you, it's going to make it easier sometimes, but not always. Okay? So, be careful what you say, what you do, because we all want to know the truth so badly. So badly do we want to know the truth. We want to please God in so many ways. We want to honor him. We want to be loved by him. We want to feel like God is looking down on me with favor. We want this for our lives, for our families. We want it. And that's a noble thing to want. And I mean, I want it too. That's the knowledge. But the understanding is that you can't earn it. You can't earn it. You can't earn your salvation. It has been given to you. You can't earn God's favor. He gives it to you. Throughout the Bible, we read about people who God didn't just supernaturally make things happen for them. He was with them. Now, sometimes things did happen supernaturally when he was with them. But he was with them first. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to take our knowledge of God and turn it into understanding of God. That he's with us. Those four words. He is with us. Or say, he is with me. Those 4 words can change your life. Because when he is with you, he will protect you at times. Sometimes he will allow things to happen. You see, think about a car engine, okay? All these moving parts, and you got to have a certain amount of oil and a certain amount of air and a certain amount of gas and a certain amount of electricity, and it all combines together and the parts move, and boy, one of them gets out of whack and you start hearing knocking, or you hear sss, or you hear or you know, those different sounds that you hear when things aren't working right with the car, right? Those things all work together to make our life easier. Okay? But God's not a car. Sometimes, you know, God will allow these parts to fail in our lives, things that fail. We might get the coronavirus. We might get the flu. We might get mono or lupus or even cancer. We might get it because God knows everything is going on all the time, and he's moving things around. And by preventing you from something from happening to you may cause 10 other people much worse problems. Or perhaps letting these 10 other people suffer might help you. But let God work that in his way. Let's simply love him, adore him, honor him, praise him, worship him, pray, speak to him, listen to him every day. And take our knowledge of him and turn it into understanding of him. And there's so much more I want to say about this, but I want to cut it short tonight because I'm already late putting this on Facebook. But let's start there. Start simple. If you don't think you understand God well enough, tonight I want you to ask him, how can I understand you better? And then be patient. Don't expect the answer immediately. Some of us are going to get immediate answers. Some of us are going to have to wait. Some of us are going to have to keep working. It's all because God knows who we are better than we know ourselves. I can't tell you do this, and this, and you'll be closer to God, because I don't know you the way God knows you. All I'm telling you is the things that help you understand God. Now I need you to go to God and say, I want to know you more. And he'll tell you, let's do this. Let's do this. I hope that makes sense. So I just want to say, be safe out there. If you decide to go out to the store, put one of these on. Let's keep each other safe. Let's be safe. I know it's not fun. I know we want it all to be over. But I do know this. God is in control. And that's a wonderful, amazing thing to behold. God is in control. God bless you all. Thank you for joining me tonight at the table.